money doesn't make us behave right. Wouldn't you agree that it causes more family disruption than it should?
I totally agree with you because like in the probate court, I see a lot of arguments among the family members because everyone wants to get more and they want to get rid of other people. So they fight with each other. They argue with each other about their rights. And when they fight with each other, definitely it will prolong the whole process. So it means it will consume more estates. It will take longer time. It will disclose more privacy and it will cause more stress in the family. So I definitely suggest people to have a trust document because like if we have a trust document, we already see who gets what if we pass away. And the rights will be in the hands of the people we trust, like our families, our friends. So the assets will not go to the court and people will not fight for that.